Day 2, March 15th, Week of AI by TeacherGoals. Special thanks to Schemely Course Creator for sponsoring Monday's event.
Teachers spend, on average, 7.5 hours a week planning. Every year, hundreds of thousands of teachers plan their curriculum in isolation.
Meanwhile, the pressure of workload is increasing and staff turnover is at an all-time high.
What if it could be different? At Schemely, we're teachers who believe it can. How? A course creation tool that empowers busy teachers to find, create, generate, and edit lesson plans, teaching resources, and course maps in a click.
Schemely is made by teachers for teachers, driven by educational research and supercharged with AI.
Say goodbye to reinventing the wheel. Say hello to Sundays. Get more time with your students, front and center. Plan smarter
with Schemely.
The next session will begin in 20 seconds.
Catchy tune. Well, everybody, welcome back to our final session tonight. Oh, I was saying earlier how tired you get just because it's so much incredible information at once. And just got to make sure I set my alarm for tomorrow, not oversleep. Anyway, welcome to our final session tonight. And don't forget about the t-shirt challenge from John's session. And make sure yes.
Erica, do you have a t-shirt yet?
No,
we need to get you I have a t-shirt with your face on it. We got to get you a t-shirt.
I know. I didn't check my mailbox today. Maybe.
But for everybody else that's watching, you can get your own t-shirt by going to bit.ly/Week of AI shirt. And you have the opportunity to win some amazing swag or be entered to win some amazing swag. And you get a cool little neon robot on the front. And as you know now from the last session, /Imagine is actually prompt engineering for Midjourney. So /Imagine with us for this last session. We have an amazing guest. Erica, do you want to introduce her and bring her up?
Absolutely. She's great. I'm excited.
Her name precedes her.
What's that?
I said her name precedes her.
Yes, it does. It does.
It brings in the social spheres and education. I know a lot of people have either seen her present or heard of her. I've seen several of her presentations at ISTE. She speaks on NFTs, all realms of ed tech, including AI. And she's got some amazing information on AI and design thinking tonight. So.
Well, we're going to welcome Sabba Quidwai, and she believes cultures of innovation begin with a culture of empathy. God, I love her already. Her journey took her from being a high school teacher to education executive at Apple. Dr. Quidwai now works with organizations to design schools that give young people the mindset and skills to thrive in workplaces and as global citizens. Sabba hosts the podcast Designing Schools and released a documentary based on her research on design thinking, K-12. How exciting. Welcome to her.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. It's such an exciting intro. I love the music.
I know, it's fun.
Well, the goal is to get you jazzed, to get the viewers jazzed, and to kind of like set the precedence, of like awesomeness is about to happen.
Mission accomplished.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and
Eric excited. The dog's excited. My cat was just on my
excited too. That's always a good side. That's the best side.
Yep, it's that time. I've still got neighborhood kids knocking on my door, and the dogs don't like it. So the barking's not AI generated. Yeah, she's a schnauzer. Little dogs, big bark. But we're gonna go ahead and go down and behind the curtain and let you wow us with your wizardry.
Have fun.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Sabba, and I'm so looking forward to having this conversation today. I think one of the really exciting things about this topic is that there are no set answers, which puts us in a unique position to be able to really have agency and ownership over designing what's next. And so today I'm going to take a step back and kind of share a little bit of sort of like what my dreams are for what I hope to see come from this, based on things that I think, we all would like more of. And that is really freedom of time to be able to do things that bring us joy and things that really allow us to connect more on a human level. And so last year in December, after hearing about this book for so long, I finally read Atomic Habits. And I actually read it at the end of the year, thinking it was going to like prep me for the upcoming year. I was going to get all organized. And I was so shocked to read it and find how much it resonated in terms of what we do in education. And so one of the big core themes of the book that I think is just so fitting for what we're going through right now and the things that we're thinking about is in the book, he says that when you think about habits that you want to adopt and you think about the type of person you want to become, instead of trying to focus on outcomes, he said we should focus more on really defining who it is we want to be. And when we create that sort of shift towards identity and really thinking about who it is we want to be, we're much more likely to adopt habits and mindsets and make decisions that align with that. I know, right, Erica? I'm telling you, every single person was like, Atomic Habits, and it just took me way too long to read it. And so one of the first things I like to ask before we talk about AI, before we talk about technology, before we talk about anything at all, if you would like to share with us in the chat, when thinking about your role, I'm the type of person who, and sort of like another way to think about this would be like, how would you want people to describe you? Erin already jumping in over here. I hope people would describe me as authentic, passionate, and of high integrity. I love it. Yes, Elena, oh my God. I waited way too long to add it to my reading list. So definitely add it as soon as possible. It's fantastic. When I think, when I answer that question, I'm the type of person who I hope people that's able to create some optimism in the world and really help people think about their hopes and dreams. That's like my number one. When I think about the type of environment I want to create or how I want people to describe me, I want people to describe me as somebody who is, brings joy, brings enthusiasm, and is empathetic towards, just who they are and what they're going through. So I always love this kind of opening question to really just kind of like frame things. And one of the things you'll notice that when people start responding to these answers and they start telling you the answers to this question, you'll notice that the qualities are just so uniquely human. When we think about being authentic, when we think about being passionate, when we think about integrity, these words that people use to describe themselves, I hear people say things like, I want to be a safe space. I want people to trust me. I want to be a mentor. I want to be somebody who inspires other people. These are all the things that humans do really, really, really well. So I really love this question anytime we're having a conversation around AI to really ground us in that type of thinking. So if you want to continue dropping those in, go ahead and add those in. But really what I want to talk to you about today is how do we move from idea to impact? I think it's probably one of the things that I'm most excited about when I think about AI technologies. It's so easy. We all have these ideas, these like hopes, these dreams, these things we wish we could do. And now all of a sudden they sort of like feel right within reach. And so how do we go about, what is that pathway to get from having this idea for what you want to being able to actually make that impact, personally and professionally in the things it is that we want to do. So I always like to go back to the year 2007. Another one of my favorite books was by Thomas Friedman. It was called Thank You for Being Late. And I think it's the second or the third chapter. This is the title, What the Hell Happened in 2007? And 2007 was significant for a couple of reasons for me. One, it was the year I graduated and started as a first-year high school history teacher. But 2007 was also the year the iPhone came out. And I think, many people would kind of agree that the iPhone was the really last big inflection point that we experienced when it came to a significant advance in how we live, how we work, how we learn when it comes to technology. But what's really interesting to me about the year 2007 is not only was it the year the iPhone was released, there were many, many other technologies that became mainstream that year, from Facebook to YouTube to Twitter to 3G to IBM Watson, just all these different technologies. Yet just a few months later, in 2008, we would enter a global recession. And I remember graduating at that time. And during that recession, as maybe many of you will remember, education went through just awful, awful, awful budget cuts. And I remember, getting my first pink slip and getting laid off. And I was always fortunate enough to get another job, but it was just like a really, really, really rocky first few years. And I remember, I thought I had graduated. I thought I had done all the things right. And all of a sudden, here I was, a new teacher. And just it seemed like the world had just turned upside down. And it wasn't fast forward until a few years later where I would really begin to learn more about technology, learn more about how the world was changing and how I needed to position myself, that this quote is one that I think about often, because this was exactly me. The future is here. It just isn't evenly distributed. In 2007, while some people like me, 2007, 2008, people like me were getting laid off, there were other people who were like launching startups and creating iPhones and doing all these other kinds of things. And so I think, when we think about education, we think about technology, it's so important for us to remember that it's not always about the future. Like, people are doing this right now. And I think, we have such a unique opportunity to really think about how do we bring this to our learners right now, but not just our learners, also ourselves, to be able to take advantage of the technology that we have in front of us. The adoption rate for ChatGPT is just absolutely wild. You've never seen a technology be adopted at this rate. And I think, it's really telling. I don't just think people are adopting this and, trying this and are excited about this just because it's free and available. I think people are excited about the possibility of what could be. How do we return time to ourselves? I think there's a lot of types of work that we just don't quite like doing. We're not machines. These are not things that humans were meant to do. How do we, sort of pass that off and really allow us as humans to get back to sort of what it is we do best? Now, when we think about ChatGPT or these different AI technology tools, I'm not going to go too deep into it right now. I want to talk a little bit more big picture strategy for how you can think about this in terms of what this technology is going to do for you. But really, the big thing that this technology does is it generates things, right? Like all kinds of things. I know we've had some amazing sessions so far, which is why I was like, I don't think I need to go into too many details because so many people have done a great job of that already. But the one thing that's really interesting when we think about this technology is, for so many people, they feel like this just came out of nowhere. And one of the things that I think is so fascinating is, we've had research and we've had so many, things come over the past decade that have been telling us how we need to prepare for this moment. So in 2013, this paper came out called Dancing with Robots, and I read it at that time. And basically the whole paper is all about how we needed to prepare for this very moment. Like, in a world where you have machines and you have AI, what are the things that humans do best, and how do you prepare people to do those things? So they say there are two unique things that humans do that so far cannot be replicated by machines. And even now, if you look at, even the different AI tools we have, these are still things that cannot be done. So they say the two things that humans do in a unique way are, number one, solving unstructured problems to which there are no answers. You need to merge ideas here. They're interdisciplinary. Things like climate change, things like how do you integrate AI in education? All these different things are what we call unstructured problems. They don't have an answer, and the answers look different for different communities, different organizations, and different people. The second thing they say that is uniquely human is complex communication. Not just, hi, how are you? But, you have a different viewpoint. I have a different viewpoint. We've got 10 different people around the table. How do we reach a consensus about what decision we want to make or how we want to move forward? Even if you think about, again, let's go back to just something we're dealing with right now with AI in education. If you're, a principal, or if you're a teacher, or if you're part of a department, or if you're a student, how do you build momentum, or how do you build consensus over what cheating is? What policy should we have? What does AI look like? These are all things, while, AI tools that we have right now can, generate ideas for us and maybe, do some of the work. Ultimately, that communication, that trust building, that empathy really comes only from humans. So these are the two things, but I just always find it fascinating. We've known this for the last 10 years, yet so many people feel like this kind of just dropped out of the sky. And so how do we kind of stay more informed? Or what are some of the strategies that allow us to do that? So back in 2014, I first came across this methodology called design thinking. At that time, I was doing a lot of work with iPad integration, and there was so much focus on tools. And what we were finding was that there were some people that would get really excited about these different apps, and then some people that would just, be, just completely turned off and not want to engage and, not see the relevancy to what it was. But what we started to find was when we began with this empathy lens, what are your challenges? What are your frustrations? What are your obstacles? But also, what are your hopes and dreams? What are the opportunities you're excited about? What are the things you wish you could be doing? All of a sudden, the conversation changed. It no longer became about the technology, it became about the person. And so once you began with that empathy lens, that's really when I discovered that concept that, innovation begins with empathy. And that's where, when we looked at this particular approach with any technology, you just feel so prepared for what's next for two reasons. Design thinking is, first of all, a method, right? You can kind of see the different sort of 5 stages in its most general form. You kind of begin with that empathy lens. What are people's problems? What are frustrations? What is the gap that we're trying to identify? What is the problem that we actually want to solve based on people's, frustrations and also, motivations? What are some little ideas we can come up with? How do we, build a small solution and then test that? And so when you work sort of in this very bite-sized way, because you're beginning with the person and what it is their needs are, they're much more likely and much more excited to adopt a technology because it is solving a problem for them, or it's making something they wished for come true. So that's how it's a method. But more than that, design thinking is also a mindset. So whether it's an iPad, whether it's a Chromebook, whether it's AI, or the next big thing that comes tomorrow, when you have these mindsets, this creative confidence, this belief that you might not know how you're going to do something, but you've got an idea and you're somehow going to figure it out, that you're willing to try. You're willing to learn from failure, that you know that your first try isn't your last try. You're comfortable with ambiguity. You're optimistic about what's possible. You're constantly in this cycle of making and iterating and making and iterating. It doesn't matter what technology comes next, you are prepared from a more strategic lens to be able to think about, like, okay, what is this going to do for me? And I think that's the really big thing that I hope people take away from today, is that when we have these new technologies, it's so easy to fall into all the different apps that are out there. But when we don't begin with, what is this going to do for me? We don't really see the promise of technology in being able to reduce workload and all those other things that, for so many years we've heard that it could do. So I first came across design thinking when I was at a ed camp and I was listening to 2 first grade teachers. And what really, really resonated with me was that who doesn't read a book, right? Like we're all, like, every single classroom has kids read books. But what was so different was they didn't change and throw everything they had been doing out. They simply reframed and just tweaked their approach to how kids were reading the book using this design thinking method. So very typical story, it's called Catch That Rat. The rat's running through town, grandma, the mailman, and everybody else is like all freaking out. And instead of just having the kids, read the book and answer questions, they instead use this design thinking method. And so they say, okay, let's begin with this empathy lens. Like, you're going to choose one of the characters in the book and you're going to empathize with them. So, a lot of the kids chose the rat. And, what is the problem? One of the kids said, like, well, the rat is just hungry and it's just running around town trying to find like food because it wants something to eat. And so when they came to the ideation, like, how are you going to help solve the problem? They created this little, like, they had a paper towel roll, covered it in foil and stuff. But their concept was that the rat goes in and becomes a human, human goes in, becomes a rat. And that way both sides kind of know how each other feel. That way they're not afraid of each other anymore. So that was sort of my first introduction to design thinking. And so when I saw, ChatGPT, one of the biggest barriers that a lot of people faced when integrating design thinking into their curriculum was they loved the concept of design thinking. So they would see these slides here, right? They would see this. They had a really hard time thinking, well, I've got to teach fractions tomorrow. So how am I going to use this? And so, when I first saw ChatGPT, my first sort of inclination was to go in and be like, okay, let's test this out. And you'll see over here, I put in this exact prompt. I'm a first grade teacher. I want to use design thinking. We're reading this book right now. And, I want my students to be creative. I'm excited. Create this for me. And if you go through and you see what it does, I was honestly absolutely shocked, because at that time people were like, oh, it's not reliable, it's not this, and it's not that. And I was shocked to see that if you go through literally word for word, it was exactly how those teachers had designed the lesson, back in 2014. And so what I love about this particular tool, when I think about design thinking and I think about people who want to integrate design thinking into their practice, is you can now go in and you can put your standard, or you can put whatever topic it is, the skills you want your students to learn. And I'm going to talk through in a moment how to break that down. And it creates this incredible design thinking activity that is enough of a spark and inspiration and information for you to then be able to be like, okay, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to tweak this. But that barrier of making the connection to, I'm teaching this standard or I'm doing this lesson, but I like this method, is now completely eliminated with the use of this tool that I imagine over time is only going to get better and better and better. So today, I want to share with you 3 quotes and 3 strategies to help you integrate design thinking into your practice, leveraging tools like these AI ones that we have. So the very first one is a quote that I heard back in 2010 from Seth Godin. And this quote really, this quote, What Makes You Indispensable, from the book Linchpin, was really the turning point for me in being able to go from, frustrated, getting pink slips, getting laid off, to really being able to identify opportunities and really, kind of find different career paths that ultimately took me down all these different, avenues. So this concept of first and foremost identifying what makes you unique is one of the most important things to do, especially at a time when so many people feel threatened and nervous by what this technology can do. Reminding people what they're really good at is really, really, really important. And one of my favorite tools for being able to do this is a tool called Sparked, completely free. We're going to share this deck with you. You can click here, take the assessment. But what I love about the Sparked assessment is it's not a personality test. It's more what energizes you. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised, we don't even remember the things that energize us, the things that we're uniquely skilled at, because we're so programmed to just do the things that we're always supposed to be doing. So to me, this is really, this technology is really an opportunity to return to what do we uniquely do best as humans, and what sparks us and what brings us joy. What I also love about this assessment is it tells you the opposite, what does not bring you joy. And so when we think about collaboration, how do we merge our different strengths together? This tool is really, really, really helpful for helping everybody on a team be able to identify what their skill is, what their strength is, and what they're energized by, so we can kind of all co-collaborate. The second quote I want to share with you is another one of my absolute favorites. It's from Eric Brynjolfsson, who I always say, if there's one AI researcher person to follow, it's him. He's an economist out of Stanford now. He used to be at MIT, but he wrote a book called The Second Machine Age. And the last line of The Second Machine Age says, "Technology is not destiny. We shape our destiny." And I think these quotes and these ideas are so important to remind educators about the agency that they have. I think we've gone through, over a decade, you could easily argue 2 decades, where, so much agency has been taken away from schools, away from educators. And I think this is a great time to remind people that you have an opportunity to be at the forefront to really design what comes next. And so a lot of times we feel like technology is in control just because of how quickly it can move. But I love how he reframes this and says, no, it's we who shape our destiny. And that's where the design thinking piece comes in, because if you're going to shape your destiny, you need to know what problems you have and what opportunities you want, and how technology is going to help you be able to move those forward. So here's another question I like to ask people sort of in this moment. And if you want to take a moment and answer it in the chat, we'd love to hear what you're thinking. But when thinking about the rest of the year, what is something you've been interested in trying, and what has been holding you back? And that's where then, once we get these answers from people, we can then go ahead and apply that design thinking methodology and create prompts based on, here's something I'm interested in trying. These are the things that are holding me back. What are some ideas for what I can do to solve this problem, so I can do some of the things that I've been interested in trying? So I'm going to keep going through this, but if you want to go ahead and drop it in the chat, I'm actually going to do some live prompting with you in a moment. But go ahead and drop in the chat, what's something you're interested in trying, and what's something that's been holding you back when thinking about what it is you want to try. So while you do that, I'm going to share, in 2017, I went back to school to do my doctorate because I really wanted to apply a layer of research to all these different things that I had been reading about when it came to design thinking. I had seen it work really well in practice in the schools that I was working at, and I wanted to add a research layer to this idea. So there is a school in San Diego called Design 39, and Design 39 is a public school where they have really been able to challenge the status quo around a lot of things that we think are not possible. You'll see over here in this picture, this is what their every single morning looks like. They get 1 hour of collaboration time. And so they don't sort of teach in their own individual classes. They co-teach, and they, share students, but they get to also co-design learning. And so I went there and I did a research study, 54 teachers in one survey, 100% response rate, 10 focus groups. We interviewed them individually as well, to really learn, how have you been able to do this, and what impact have you seen with design thinking? And so you can kind of see some of the results here. When you look at, many of these different skills that we talk about, you can see the numbers are just absolutely staggering when it comes to the degree to which their students are learning these skills, creativity, problem finding, communication, collaboration, but also mindsets. Those same design thinking, mindsets that I shared with you earlier. Oh my God, thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys are all sharing these things and make me fun when we go back in. But this is a method that, is not something new. It's predominantly utilized in the business space, but it really, really, really helps people develop the mindset and skills that so many of us want to see, not only in kids, but in adults as well. And so last year, the World Economic Forum published this Education Taxonomy 4.0, and you can see over here all these different sort of, skills and mindsets that they have identified. And so I'm sharing this with you because when we get to prompting and when we think about having AI co-design lessons with us, being able to use this kind of language is really, really, really important, because you'll see ChatGPT actually knows Taxonomy 4.0. And so if you say that you want to design a learning experience integrating Taxonomy 4.0, and you want it to specifically show you how it's integrating it into the lesson, it can actually do these things. And so it's a really awesome moment if you think about it, because we hear about these research methods, we hear about these strategies, we see charts like this all the time, but honestly, it is a lot of work to put it together yourself as a teacher on your own, on top of all the other things you have to do. So when you begin to think of these AI tools as like your assistant, where you just get to go and basically demand, like, I want this lesson, I want my kids to be learning these abilities, these mindsets, these skills, but I've also got to teach the standard, and I also only have this much time. What are you going to come up with? It's absolutely incredible to see those results. And so I published a documentary on this entire topic way before these tools came out. It features Eric Brynjolfsson, Seth Godin, basically all the people that I had learned from over the last decade about how we teach and learn in the age of AI. And so this is free, it's on YouTube, and it's available to you, but it's a very tangible example that I think you'll like. But through all of this work is really where I came to learn this idea that cultures of innovation begin with a culture of empathy. And so again, if you are here, you are way ahead of the curve. It's probably going to be surprising to people like me and you that so many people have not even tried these tools. They have not even used these tools. And so a big part of why I share this presentation the way I do, integrating these exercises, is because tomorrow you are going to be that leader in your organization, in your community, who's going to help people along. And these are some of the strategies that really help engage people in a meaningful conversation. So one of the other things we have to think about, we see a lot of people with graduate profiles, learner profiles. We want our kids to do all these things, but it's not enough anymore to just say critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and all these things, because AI can now do a part of all of those. And so one of the conversations that I think is really important to have, again, before we go into the apps and the tools, is what are things that humans do uniquely well, right? The thing that only humans can do. What are the things that machines do? And then what does that partnership between them look like? And that's why I go back to the importance of starting with an assessment like the Sparked assessment for what energizes you. Because if people are going to be confident and comfortable using these tools, they have to be confident and comfortable with themselves. They have to know that these are the things that I do well, and this tool is here to amplify the things that I have always wanted to do. But believe it or not, many people have forgotten because we've been so overwhelmed with so many things in the past couple of years that honestly, we don't even remember what sparks us and what brings us alive. And so I created this framework as a way of getting people to think strategically about what it is they want to do with this technology. One of my absolute core values that if you follow me online, you probably see is freedom. I do not want to be tied down to a schedule, anything where I feel restricted. And it's hard to kind of design and have those things, but I really, really, really am a big believer that this technology has the potential to free our time so that we can focus on things that matter most. We see that mental health is such a crisis. We know that health and wellness is a crisis. And I think, a lot of people talk about a lot of dangers with AI that I absolutely agree with, but the one danger that we don't ever talk about is the danger of overwhelming people with even more work, because now they can do things 10 times faster. And so I think the precedents that we set at this time are so, so, so important. And so this framework is really designed to help people first strategically think about what do you want to do with this technology, and then let's go in and ask it questions. So there was 5 pieces to this. It's basically inspired by the design thinking methodology. But the first thing you want to do is talk to it like a human. I think that's a really important thing for people to kind of do. Like if I had hired somebody to design my lessons for me, I would want to tell you all about my students, all about my class. I wouldn't just want you to, I am not a fan of this prompt, act as an expert history teacher and do XYZ, because every single history teacher is so different. Like the word expert to me is so subjective. There's so many people who self-proclaim themselves as experts. So when you're using a tool like this, the more personalized you make it to your own context and your own scenario, the better results you're going to get. So tell it the situation, tell it, all the things that are going on. This is how many kids I have. These are, the language level, the demographics, whatever it is you want to share. And then what is the problem? What is your barrier? So for example, earlier when I asked you that, over here we have somebody who's been interested in trying an ungrading approach. And I love this because one of the things that this technology can do is let you do big, big, big things. And I think, when I see a lot of examples, I don't think we're asking enough of this technology. And ungrading to me, that's a big thing. It's not easy to just, switch over to that type of, strategy. So when you come in here and you say, hey, this is my current situation. The problem I have is our current grading system. But my aspiration, my dream, my ultimate vision is that I'm able to integrate this ungrading approach into my class to do XYZ. These are the results that I want. And the more specific you are, the better. What % increase do you want to see? How much of something do you want to have happen? And I'm going to show you some examples in a moment. And then last but not least, this is my absolute favorite. It's called Kismet. It's asking ChatGPT to add in an element that I didn't think of. And that to me is like that aha moment that you have when I'm talking, you're talking, we're in a conversation about, say the ungrading approach, and all of a sudden you say something and I didn't think of that, but now you've got my wheels like spinning. That's what we asked ChatGPT for. Tell me something interesting that I could do that I didn't think of. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of examples. This is just a chart I have in here to show that like teachers are working so much, and it's so important. Again, just reinforcing why it's so important for us to think about the things that we don't like and that we don't want to do. Otherwise, AI is just going to make our lives, I think, even more awful, even though it might feel like we're doing things faster. So I'm actually just going to I'll come back to this a little bit later, but I want to go ahead and show you an actual example of Spark in action. So over here, you'll see the situation. I'm a middle school English, teacher. I have students with different reading levels and different interests. I want to create personalized reading materials that cater to their individual needs, but also align with the curriculum. And you would want to be specific about what state you're in because standards are different and all that kind of stuff. I want a personalized reading list for each student, including the book title, the author, and a brief synopsis, and then add in something that I didn't really think of. And the results are just absolutely incredible when we use this approach and we go in and we identify things in this way. So you'll see over here, I have some examples for you in the stack that you can go in, you can plug in, and you can actually use. And I want to show you, though, the difference between what happens when we just ask for a simple lesson plan versus when we ask for things that are more personalized to our context using that Spark framework. So I have used 3.5. I personally don't recommend that. I at this point don't really recommend purchasing a lot of AI apps and tools because there's just way too many. But I do really think there is a significant difference between 3.5 and 4 if you actually really want to use this to get, things done and actually really be productive. So over here, you'll see in this one, when we say just a simple lesson plan, it's ridiculously basic. It's using, worksheets and direct instruction and things like that. And this is where I think you have to be really careful, because I think when there's a lot of criticism of this tool, it's primarily because the prompts are not correct. However, when you go in and you use the Spark framework, yes, it's a longer prompt. Yes, you have to go in and do more work, but your outcome is significantly better. We would never hire somebody and just say, go do whatever you want, right? You would never hire someone and just give them a one-line introduction to your organization. You hire someone, you assimilate them, you onboard them, you tell them about your culture, your values, your vision, your mission, all these different things. You need to think of ChatGPT and these other AI tools in the exact same way. So when we come in here and we do this, you can see now all of a sudden, the same technology is going to give a completely different response. It's coming up with so many creative ideas, fraction flags, fraction fishing, a scavenger hunt. I went with a scavenger hunt example here. And then this is the other thing that's great. Again, before, to ask a teacher to do this, it's just simply too much. And so over here, you can be like, great, I love that idea. Go build it out, right? Again, really thinking about this as your assistant. And it comes here, it gives you all of this. If you tell it specifically how much time you have, it can go in and it can, delineate it in that way. It can give you different suggestions. It can give you feedback, and you can go on and on and on. Whatever the things are that you need. Do you need a lesson plan to submit? Do you need a grading rubric? Do you want to turn this into a conference presentation and go share it with your department? So many different things you can keep asking, keep asking, keep asking. If there's something you don't like, you can say, actually, I don't want this part, tweak this, change this. But that conversational dialogue that we have is absolutely critical to the results that we're going to get, but only if we have set it up in, a correct way. I want to share another one over here because, again, I'm really big on work-life balance and getting these things. These are big issues that we have, and I believe this technology can really rise to the occasion in supporting us. So this is another example where we say, teachers are struggling with a work-life balance. We want a more collaborative environment. We want to build a strong community where teachers can, rely on each other. We want to increase teacher satisfaction by 20% and reduce workload by 15%. Add in something I didn't think about. And it can go in and it can, generate just these incredible results. And, I really encourage you to take these, try these, tweak them out there. This is another one I really like, develop a proposal for a master schedule. That's there. And when we come over here, I want to show you this one as well to show you what it does. You can say over here, create this new proposal for a master schedule. And here it goes, a whole executive summary. You can go present to your board. These are some of the best practices for what a collaborative schedule looks like. Here's a proposed master schedule. You could go and even plug your master schedule in and see what it comes up with to be able to create something different. But this is a starting point. This is really where you can be like, okay, this, professional learning communities or this common planning time, this is what I really want to build out. Here's what's available to me, and here's what I can do. So these are all just different prompts in here that you can do. If any of you are bloggers, this is also a really great tool to be able to, use things in that way. But again, bad prompt here. I want you to act as an expert in leadership. Like, what does that even mean? Write a blog post about why leaders need to have a plan for how schools use tools like ChatGPT. But when you come in here and you apply the Spark method, you can see you're telling it about your situation. We've seen a decrease in engagement. People aren't as interested in technology now. We need some fresh content and ideas for our target audience. We want to be the go-to resource. We want to increase our traffic by 25% and then add an element of surprise. And your blog post is going to be night and day from this prompt compared to this prompt. So that's kind of where it is. The Spark method is really sort of like, the one thing I would probably encourage you to try, just because it really gets you thinking about the things that you really want and that you aspire for, and the challenges that you have, and really asking this technology to just raise the bar with how it is that we're using it, to really be able to transform the type of work we're doing, instead of taking things that, quite frankly, most of us don't even enjoy doing, that are not even relevant to what we want to see, and asking a computer to do it 10 times better and faster. So that's kind of that there. But I do want to open it up now, kind of in our last couple of minutes over here, for just Q&A, to see if you have any questions, if there's anything you guys want to do with ChatGPT Live. There is just one thing I would show you. If you do have 4, they added in a significant number of plugins. And one of my favorite plugins that I was actually just playing with today is called Prompt Perfect. And you go and you put in the Prompt Perfect, and it says, okay, what sentence do you want to rephrase? You can put in the prompt that you have, and it will actually give you a suggestion for how you can rephrase it even better. So these different prompts are all available to you here as plugins. So lots and lots and lots of plugins that have just been added. These are just some of the ones that I added to be able to try. But these plugins are, PDF interaction, YouTube video interaction. There's like so many different things happening. It's amazing. So with that, Q&A.
That was amazing. I'm going to go ahead and give you a round of applause. I love. Actually, I haven't explored the plugins at all. So I would love to learn more about the plugins. And those of you who are watching, if you have any questions for Sabba, please be sure to drop them in the chat.
I know when you said plugins, I was like, wait, what? keep going. But
they're really cool. I mean, just something as simple as this one, for people who maybe don't feel as confident with prompts and things like that, or even if you're using Spark, or even if you've tried a prompt, there's no harm in going in and, putting in perfect. And, we can go ahead and even try one, it's like you come over here, you put in perfect. I will say the plugins are slightly slow. The one really big thing I also tell people is, like, right now, ChatGPT is kind of the main tool. But once we see this in Google and in Microsoft, this is going to be a game changer in terms of how much easier this becomes. And so let's just, put in something maybe like, I don't know, really simple over here. I teach 5th grade and I want to adopt an ungrading approach. How can I do that? And it goes in and it kind of just, will rephrase it up for you. Definitely it takes a little bit longer. So there is that still barrier a little bit with some of the plugins, but if you have the patience, it will generate it. It sort of reminds me of the early days of the internet with like AOL and dial-up. Like literally, I was waiting for this.
I know we're so spoiled, but we have to understand
except we don't have the sound effects.
So over here, sometimes it will say, like, sometimes we'll just give you the answer and go in and kind of do that for you. And if you can say, like, you can kind of go back and forth with a little bit. But I mean, it's unreal to think that it can just do this type of work for us. There's also really personal ones that are fun, like Expedia. is in there. So if you're planning any summer vacations, being able to go in and say, this is my budget, this is where I want to go.
Oh my God.
It does a really good job of really staying within budget and really finding and putting those things together. Again, just things that would take us like a lot of time. It does gets us a good head start on.
I love that. And that also gives us more time to have to ourselves or for our students. Plan my trip for me. Here's my wallet. I love it. Someone asked if you were going to share your slide deck. Aaron Whalen wanted to know if there was a place we were sharing
I
that.
sent it over. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm happy to drop it in the chat. It's just this exact deck.
Perfect. Yes, that's right. We did post it in the beginning, but let's post. Thank you for posting it again.
Do you have it? Okay, cool. Because I somehow can't see how I write in here.
Maybe Amanda can. It's up at the top, Amanda. Also, Elena says she added a plugin for keywords to hers, and she asked what plugins you recommend. And I think you just shared a couple, but are there any others that you might recommend?
You know, I haven't played as much with them as I would have liked, to be honest, just because they are like slightly slow, but I can actually show you the ones that I did add. The PDF ones were really interesting to me. What is this? Oh, the research assistant. Yeah. The chat with PDF, the research tools, those were really interesting to me. The Get Your Guide. I use Get Your Guide a lot when I go on vacation. So paired this with Expedia, I do the whole thing. So on a personal level, that was another one. Shimmer was another one I was really interested in. I love this for being able to generate recipes and things like that. Meal plans, all that type of stuff. So I was curious what Shimmer was going to do. Job search. I think, again, from an equity lens, I was curious to see kind of how this helps with jobs and how it supported that. That was one. This video insights was another interesting one. These are basically all the ones I have. I just haven't had time to play with them all yet. But this one helps you interact with like YouTube and videos and transcripts and things like that. Zapier is, I think, probably one of the most interesting. I don't personally use it, but there's, this is another really interesting thing. Things that we would never use or things that always seemed hard, all of a sudden now seem accessible. Like Zapier just always seemed hard to me. But now that it's here, I feel more confident for some reason trying it. The shopping one is really cool too. Like there's some, I think, is it this one that does that? There's another one in here that scans.
We're going to sleep again.
Well, there's a lot. There's just so many.
I know. This is what keeps me up at night. These are so awesome. It's serious. I don't know the last time I actually got a good night's sleep. Amanda shares so much with me too. No, that's awesome. Also, let's see what else some people said. And Elena, I know you said something here. Oh, here it is. Nicole.
No.
Students encourage students to use it to proofread and wondered, I'm sorry. If you can show, I was just reading it. I was like, oh, that's really interesting.
So Nicole, chat GPT is a conversation. So as students put in and ask it to proofread, you can, after it spits out the proofread, you can ask it what changes it made and why, and it will tell you that. So just remember that it is a continued conversation, and you can continue to ask it in a text thread. So yes, you can. I've used it with my daughter we put in a poem. We analyzed the same poem for theme, figurative language, meaning, and so yes, it does do that.
And I think you just answered it. The PDF plugin looks great for checking course specifications so much more quickly. I mean, yeah, this is incredible. I am so excited. Excellent.
There's also Chat PDF. I know it doesn't integrate with Chat GPT, but there's Chat PDF where you can even upload PDFs of books and have like a conversation, with your book, ask questions about a book.
I think Bing also does a really good job with that because it's connected to the internet. So ChatGPT connects to the internet too, but again, it's slow. But I have found Bing in creative mode. If you enter a URL of like a research paper or something like that, it does a great job of like summarizing it, of pulling out pieces. I really like the complementary nature of Bing creative mode and ChatGPT 4 for a lot of the work it is that we do.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fantastic session. We learned a lot, and a lot of people are very happy with the content. And you are infectious. I saw someone
Yes.
earlier say that your knowledge and enthusiasm on the topic is infectious, and
It truly is. It truly is. You are doing what you are meant to do, and we are so grateful for you in this leadership
having
role
me.
to share this with us. I think this one's going to be well watched. That's for sure. How exciting! I know I'm going to rewatch it. I have to write down everything you just said.
I mean, who doesn't want more freedom in their life, right? Like to be able to do
I know. It's like
this is, I think, what humans do best. And I think it's something that, like for too long, like we have lived in a society that has turned us into machines. And I truly believe this is an opportunity to take that back if we are proactive, like, you guys are hosting this week and helping people. And I think this stuff is just so, so, so important.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks to Amanda for throwing this all together. She's been raving about all of this for so long, and it's exciting to see all these people jump in. And I'm here even as a newbie myself, helping people with the fear of it. And I like how you just straight up listen. You don't have time for this. Just do this and watch it. Just go from here. I was just saying earlier, I'm going to talk about this on Friday, but my students with scripting, they've written so many scripts for the green screen. They know how to do it. And, so now our scripts are getting better because we'll do that. And it leaves time for the filming and the fun part where our presentations are so much better because we've been using this technology. So yeah, I got over it quickly.
I've used it to generate scripts for some of the commercials that I create for videos that I actually play in the intros. I've used it. I've actually used it to help generate videos as well. There's a lot of editing on the back end, but I don't know. AI, I think we're in the beginning, and instead of having that blockbuster mindset, you need to have that Netflix mindset. You need to pivot. So thank you for your thoughts and your presentation. And I'm excited for to see more of you talk about this topic. I've seen you posting a lot on it. And are you at ISTE this year?
I'm not.
Oh no, change that.
I know. I have to be at another. It's actually really sad because I'm literally like 2 hours away at another conference. And so, yeah, very sad.
Well, I hope to see you soon at another conference. I saw you at ISTE last year.
Yeah.
You spoke with Tech Rabbi.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you. We're going to call it a night. And guys, we pick back up tomorrow at 5:30. We're super excited about our sessions tomorrow. We have CuraPod as our sponsor. So there will be a lot of CuraPods, going on during the day. And we kick off at 5:30. So tune in tomorrow. Thank you, Sabba. And
Sabba. It's an honor.
You guys, keep it real and artificial.
I don't know. Just try something. If you're just jumping in, you're brand new from the 2 days, just try something new. Just start playing. Don't be scared. You will love it. You're going to be so excited. So
have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.